So, dear colleagues, we will be just giving a couple of seconds for all our participants to settle down. So, thank you for your patience. I think we will also start by also displaying with our LGMA 5th anniversary of the Paris Agreement video, and then we'll start the agenda. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. Welcome to the 23rd webinar of the Local Governments and Municipal Authorities Constituency on the way to COP26. Now we are in the assessment phase. My name is Yunus Arikan, the Director of Global Advocacy at ICLE, Local Governments for Sustainability, which is also the focal point for the LGMA constituency. I'm delighted to take the webinar today for the next hour with you. For those who have been not being familiar with our webinars, just for a couple of housekeeping notes, these webinars are recorded and you will receive the recording and the presentation into your email box later on, and you can also access them later on the web. We are running these webinars for a period of like 40 minutes of a presentation, and then we're opening the space for Q&A or interventions from all the participants. So during this time, feel free to type in your comments if needed to the Q&A box or the chat box. If there are any burning issues, we will leave it to give the floor, but we believe there's also a value to keep until the end so that we can have a systematic discussion altogether later on. With this, I'd like to proceed. For those again who have not joined us before, the video that you just watched was our 90 seconds Paris Agreement 5th anniversary video of the LGMA constituency. And we'll look forward to developing a new one in the next year, building on our achievements at COP26 in Glasgow. The recording of the previous webinars is available online, as well as you can find also the information in our LGMA website, citiesandregions.org. And we also like to remind that especially the multi-level action pavilion, which we'll touch upon it briefly, and all the other interventions will also are also available in ICLE's COP26 YouTube channel. The link here is wrong, but we will receive the correct link while you receive the mail of this webinar. As you have seen, and we have already updated our website with our outcomes, intervention statements, so that you can be following up later on. Just to recap as well, this constituency is active in the process of the UN negotiation, UNFCCC climate negotiations since '95, and this is one of the oldest in this process. As of today, we are capturing around 30 plus local and regional governments across the world. Obviously, these are the ones who are accredited to the UNFCCC, which takes a procedure or bureaucratic process, which takes around 2 years, but we do not want to limit ourselves to only those accredited. So through our mailing list, through our webinars, we're reaching out to a broader network across the world. And we're delighted to have this consultation, inclusiveness, so that we can speak as one voice and present a stronger position in the UNFCCC process. This is the official UNFCCC negotiations channel. What does it mean? We are providing collectively interventions, submissions, statements. We also nominate our representatives in the workshops throughout the year. We also follow the mid-year technical meetings, which is called subsidiary body meetings in June or May in the mid-year in Bonn. Let's remember this process has milestones, and we will touch upon it in a summary. But on the way to Paris, we had been effective, so that we were enshrined in the Paris Agreement. But we also followed up later on in the Marrakesh Partnership, and that's how we came to also the Glasgow COP, which just. It would be good to remember, because this is our last webinar of this year, and in fact, it's the last webinar of the two years, because the COP26 was extended to a 2 years process. We had enjoyed a very lively journey, mostly virtual, obviously, but across the world, we had regional meetings, global consultations. We have participated in UNFCCC process. As in communication-wise, we have 23 webinars. We have more than 150 mail updates within our network. We have new membership joining us, especially on the way to Glasgow. And now we can conclude that after 2 years, we have a new roadmap and a new momentum that will take us forward on the new era of time for multi-level action, which is the second phase of the Paris Agreement. This is important. I think that why the climate pact, Glasgow Climate Pact, is important, because it is the second phase of the Paris Agreement. Let's remember, even the UNFCCC Kyoto Protocol didn't survive for its second year. So compared to this milestone or breakthroughs in 1995, 97, 2015, this is as equally as important to make sure that we have a way forward in the next decade or so. And it is more important for us because our recognition in the preamble paragraph of the Paris Agreement is elevated one step further. Now, the Glasgow Climate Pact underlines the importance, or the highlights the urgent need for multi-level and cooperative action. This is an important strengthened reference to the role of local and regional governments compared to the Paris Agreement. Multi-level is a new terminology now that will be penciled in all the discussions on the Paris Agreement and its follow-up. It's important because it may be important to recall, for example, those kind of big documents are in fact opening a lot of frontiers later on. One example, the 97 Kyoto Protocol was defining flexibility mechanisms as just one sentence. But then the whole new era, a new market, clean development mechanism, joint implementation, emissions tradings have all evolved out of this one sentence. So having the term coined in the Paris Agreement, and the multi-level and cooperative action is significantly important, which is now up to us, the LGMA, who was the one who was asking this phrase, now to squeeze through this window, build a new world, build a new era. Therefore, we would like to encourage all of our members that we should be proud of what has been achieved, and now it's time to build up further. And obviously, compared to Paris Agreement, in the Glasgow Climate Pact, we even have more references to local and regional governments. We have a good reference to Marrakesh Partnership, which we have played so much role in making its success. There is, for the first time, recognition of the constituencies. There's even interesting reference to youth participation, for example. And in fact, this is very important and speaks to our heart, because at the local and regional level, especially, with the climate emergency declarations, thousands of cities across the world, we have already made a good practice about how local and youth can strengthen and synergize its work. So I think we can share a lot of good practices to the world in that experience, in that process. It's good that the NDCs will be revised by the end of 2020, or parties are invited to revise them, because none of the announcements that was done and throughout these 2 weeks in Glasgow, or any of those race to zero, race to resilience commitments are now reflected in the NDCs yet. So it's good that Glasgow Pact has now made this point that it is now time to bring this into the NDCs. Original language in the Paris Agreement was every 5 years. So we have to make a very valuable next couple of months, so that by the time we reach to Sharm el-Sheikh, the new NDCs are both multi-level and reflect all these commitments. And that will make the story complete, because the commitments, the announcements in Glasgow makes no sense if they are not in the NDCs. And we have plenty of recognition in some of the other working programs, but we will particularly focus on ACE later on. Let's recall, before Glasgow, we were already saying that time for multi-level action has come. We have more than 60 countries who have been increasing their ambition, national ambition, because they have worked with their local and regional governments. And we were asking this to be the new normal, this to be embraced by every nation, and that's what we achieved with the Glasgow Climate Pact. The Glasgow Climate Pact was also for us an opportunity to refresh our vision for our roadmap in the age of climate emergency. So we are very happy that all these 4 elements have found its way by some means into the Glasgow outcomes, and that was why I think it was important that we had our press conference. We had released our roadmap at the beginning of the Glasgow Pact, the Glasgow conference, so that throughout the 2 weeks we can feed into the negotiations with this solid vision. What we could highlight here, a bit more details, in the sense that Glasgow Climate Pact, let's not forget, it is in fact, there are 3 documents which are in its complete package makes Glasgow Climate Pact. These are all documents that is relevant for UNFCCC, the Kyoto Protocol, and to the Paris Agreement. Obviously, there are differences in mechanisms and the responsibilities in each of those documents. Therefore, Glasgow Climate Pact, in fact, has 3 different documents. And don't confuse some of the paragraphs. You have to understand where it is CMA, which is Paris Agreement, or whether it's COP, which is UNFCCC. In addition to Climate Pact, there is around 30 decisions adopted in the whole 2 weeks. One of them is particularly relevant for us, this Article 6. Non-market approaches is something that we spend a bit more time. We are happy that at least there will be an opportunity that we can submit views, so that the approach we would like to have, which is sustainable integrated urban and territorial development, could be recognized as a non-market approach into the second phase of the Paris Agreement, which will be particularly very important for developing countries. Action for climate empowerment. This is a very powerful tool. This is a big agenda, which is education, training, public awareness, public participation. And in Glasgow, they have adopted a new work program, and it's impressively full of recognition to local and regional governments, full of recognition or full of mandates for us. And we have been observed that Article 6 really can play a huge role. This is Article 6 of the UNFCCC, not Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. But the more you make decision makers and communities aware and informed about the opportunities, about the potential of ambitious climate action, you can make the national commitments and national actions much more empowered. So that's why it is important, and we will have a huge roadmap for implementing ACE in our territories as well. In the LGMA process, so we have seen these are the decisions by the COP, this is by the parties, but we have so many also announcements that came up. Those remarkable ones are particularly on finance, subnational fund, and global alliance. We have thousands of cities now in the race to zero and race to resilience, Glasgow Food and Climate Declaration, Edinburgh process for biodiversity, Scotland and Wallonia voluntary contributions to loss and damage, mission innovation, US-Japan and US-China partnership, particularly on subnationals, linkage to World Leaders Summit outcomes, and the GCOM has also announced its multi-level action playbook and impact report, which will be a valuable tool, all of this in its entirety, to our work on the way to the implementation in the second phase of the Paris Agreement. Let's not forget the discussions that we have been in LGMA in Glasgow for a period of 2 weeks, with a huge recognition of our presence. We have more than 400 delegations representative, either through LGMA members or through their national delegations. If they were all in one party, this would be the second biggest party. That's not small. And we're also aware throughout the COP, we were engaged in a virtual and also hybrid format. So our engagement was beyond the physical presence there. And that's why we were so strong in all our submissions. And so much also strong in our engagement inside and outside the blue zone. Heloise, I see your message about the particular announcement finance on subnational. Let's come back to that after the end of this, the first, let's say, round. But thanks for highlighting this. Let's continue. Our home in the blue zone was the Multi-Level Action Pavilion. This was a remarkable success story that was hosted by the Scottish government and convened by ICLE in its capacity after LGMA focal point, and co-hosted by Wales government and Glasgow Council and other initiatives. And we had numerous partners, both contributing financially, but also providing inputs through their thematic sessions. So we are proud that crowdsourcing of this LGMA community was a strong demonstration of unity and strong demonstration of how close we are in the implementation of the Paris Agreement. So we are very, very appreciating all the partners, and we would be looking forward to continuing this experience in the rest of the upcoming COPs as well. You can find all the webinar, all the sessions of the pavilion. It's more than 60 in the YouTube channel. But we are very happy that every day ISD also selected one specific event, which was also an opportunity to disseminate our results throughout the pavilion, through the world, because of the impact of ISD overall. Pavilion was, of course, one part of the story, and events outside was also the other part of the story. The real LGMA official contributions was through our statements, opening and closing, and also the high-level segment and presidency and the Marrakesh partnership events. Overall, we have 12, let's say, big moments. We are very happy with the diversity that we achieved. We have started with our Latin American leaders because of the COP25 Chilean presidency. Throughout 2 weeks, we had particularly prioritized our partners from Europe, especially from UK, and then we've concluded with our closing statement from RALGA, the Rwanda Association of Local Authorities, which is also a stepping stone for an African COP27. So I think that was another success of the diversity of LGMA constituency, and that we are all united, but we are diverse in our backgrounds, in our typology, in our conditions, but we are ambitious for going forward together. These are some moments throughout the 2 weeks. We have captured them. You can find our speakers delivering their statements in the various sessions. We had been also engaging so many leaders from UK. We had met, particularly for the first time as a constituency, we met with the UN Secretary General and UK Prime Minister for the first time. Head of government of a host country met with constituencies, and similarly, UN Secretary General had a special session of dialogue with the mayors when he was in Glasgow on the second week during the Cities and Regions Day. As you can see from the pavilions, we had prime ministers, we had ministers, we had remote connections from different parts of the world, from Africa to Australia, from Belo Horizonte to Quelimane, and I think that was again how we have managed our space, and what was the real meaning that we were able to speak our own priorities comfortably. We were able to release our commitments on our own space. I think that was fully reflecting that the home of subnationals was the multi-level action pavilion. And we want to congratulate once again all the partners. The Glasgow City Hall hosted numerous events. We were very happy to make their voice heard also into the space, but we were very happy to visit numerous times the Glasgow City Hall as well, and we're grateful for the leaders of the Glasgow Council for opening their doors for us. During those couple of weeks, we were also engaging in a number of diverse events, and one of them was remarkable because Globe Legislators Climate Summit was held in the Scottish Parliament in Edinburgh, and we as LGMA were there through our representatives, Mayor Sawyer, speaking of the value of the collaboration between legislative bodies and executive bodies, which will be an agenda on the way forward. We will come back to that again. I will not go into too much of the details, but all the links, particularly also from the UK COP26 presidency, you can also go to their own page and you can find a lot of links, because it was really a massive mobilization. There were even hard times to catch up with all the outcomes, but I think the overall essence was good in the sense that we were everywhere, in the blue zone, green zone, inside and outside. Let's remember, COP26 was important that it was kicking off the second phase of the Paris Agreement, but it was not an emergency mode process. You may recall that, for example, Kyoto Protocol didn't survive its second phase. Therefore, making sure the biggest priority of COP26 was to make sure Paris Agreement survives and continues in the decade to come. So it's good that this was hosted, this was done, this was delivered, but the response to emergency mode was not there. I have given this example like an analogy. You can think about that. You are watching a Netflix or a video on demand that you want to watch the second, let's say, session, but you want to continue the second phase, but there's also a second season that you want to hear at the same time, which was not so easy because the first season was not even concluded yet. So that was kind of a challenge. And obviously the priorities of the host country, that was a northern COP as such, their priorities was not exactly the same as the global south. Let's be realistic on that. Even though there are references to numerous parts, there are topics that was ignored, or there were topics that were in the last minute that was postponed. So it is important that for us, we see as LGMA, we should see LGMA as LGMA COP26 and COP27 as the one package that has to be only called fulfilled if they are complementing each other, especially topics like food, biodiversity, culture, urbanization. These are the topics that we would hope that it will come back in Sharm el-Sheikh. Loss and damage, adaptation, finance, definitely. Therefore, we believe COP26 was good, but not enough. Therefore, COP27 should continue the spirit and even make it even further. And it is important that the global north should not leave the whole responsibility of COP27 to the global south or to Africa. That would be a biggest failure, and we should make sure as subnations to prevent this to happen. Let's remember, on the way to COP27, we have to act on 4 building blocks. Regular UNFCCC business. We have to keep our submissions to the documents that was announced. There are numerous expectations that we have to submit our views, just like Article 6.8 and numerous others. We still don't know what will happen during June. Let's remember, UK as a host country paid a huge effort to ensure in-person presence. How will this be happening in Germany, in Bonn? We don't know yet. The COVID is going through numerous variants. So there's still a possibility that in-person and virtual or hybrid format may not be exactly the same in Glasgow, but let's see. And we will have regional climate weeks. We have to feed into this as well. And that part is especially important, that we have agreed in Glasgow that we will be much more robust as LGMA in engaging ourselves into UNFCCC process, not just at the end of the year, but in particular when we are in the Glasgow Climate Pact as a multi-level reference is enshrined, we have to be present at every step of the UNFCCC process. The second point, COP presidencies. We have seen in the case, it was always important who would lead and how they would lead. But for particularly for COP26, the UK presidency was particularly strong, powerful, passionate, ambitious. We will have to see how they will continue, because they will still have a lot of legacies. They have so many initiatives they have created. We hope that they will continue to follow up. And we have already seen some signals that they have already started some exchanging with the constituencies, but with the councils, the communities that they have created, how will they continue? We have to wait and see. Of course, they will also have to respect that the incoming presidency should also kick off their own process. And here, of course, there's still a lot of question marks because we haven't met with the COP27 presidency. There's no champion yet announced, which is, at the time being, it's okay. Even Nigel Topping was announced in January. So it is on its own mechanism, but the biggest weakness is that for the COP, the UK had 2 years to prepare, but in Egypt, there is less than 12 months and even 10 months now left to go. So it will be better if the Egyptian presidency acts as quick as possible, taking into account so many things coming up from Glasgow. Marrakesh Partnership, it's in a new phase. The improved mechanism is introducing new working groups, new formats, new type of engagement. And it's also particularly important, how will the UK partners, I mean, Nigel, with all his ambition and passion, has managed to bring a huge, let's say, family of pro bono or partners who are providing services either on an in-kind basis or a professional. How will they continue this year? We have to wait and see. The Race to Zero even had its first consultation, and Race to Resilience also had this first consultations yesterday. But we will have to see how the Egyptian presidency will come on board. How will they bring their own champion? How will they be coordinating this? This will be, we have to see this again. And we have to act accordingly. But we have to make sure we continue to invest and continue to deliver our commitments and races, breakthroughs and sectoral pathways. And one important thing is that Marrakesh Partnership have explicit mandate now to mobilize for the global stocktake, which is very valuable. So we have to spend more time and capacity in the Marrakesh Partnership after Glasgow. The fourth element, our LGMA roadmap, and that we have to now start the discussion. We have presented these questions in our November webinar, and now we will come back to now on that couple of ideas. We have started to come up with some analysis of what are our strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Obviously, this was prepared by ICLE on its own, but we will now like to have it all developed together with all the members of the LGMA. Let's start to also remember we have to live in a world where the global negotiations will continue. This is the year where the 3 Rio conventions will have their COPs, 2 of them in Africa, 1 in China, which is also very important considering the relation between Africa and China. We will have a number of world congresses by LGMA partners like ICLE and UCLG. Regional climate weeks will take place. Afri-cities will take place. This year is unique because Stockholm Plus 50 will take up, which is the 50th anniversary of the 1972. So these are, we have to make sure there's a synergy among all these things. And we also we should not forget there's new leadership in G20, Indonesia, and new leadership in G7, which is Germany. And we will continue to act in these processes. One thing for sure, there will also be, by the way, before that, the World Urban Forum and the Quito +5 or Quito +6 process through the UN Secretary General, also the Future of Cities process will also be playing a huge role throughout this year. One caveat though, none of these are easily to be said that confirmed as of today. Even we have seen the first experience, the negotiations in Geneva for biodiversity, the technical negotiations are postponed. So we can consider that COVID will be an issue and they may be impacting some of those events in terms of calendar or format. Let's not forget that. So let's come to this. What do we have as strength? That is our first things to discuss. We have a very powerful Glasgow Climate Pact with multi-level enshrined in it. And it is the second phase. So there will be a new way of engagement in this phase. We have an experience on multi-level action pavilion that we have to build upon. And our relation with Scotland and Glasgow will continue. We have an energized LGMA, especially over these couple of days. We can remember how we were motivated to make sure that our positions are receiving are finding its way to the negotiation text. I think that was one of the biggest outcome that we have stepped up once again as a family, as a constituency, and now this will continue towards Sharm el Sheikh, and once again the unity of global North and South is very powerful within LGMA. We have already a good relationship with Sinai governor. Sinai is the region which hosts Sharm el Sheikh. And we also have a series of relations with the Minister of Environment in Egypt because of the legacy from the biodiversity COP in 2018. There are several networks who are particularly active in Africa, in Egypt, and it's not just Africa, but Egypt is also coastal to Mediterranean. So Mediterranean, Middle East, and North Africa will play a huge role in this COP. So they will also, we will hope that they will also come to this COP like it's their COP. So it's not just Africa, but also Mediterranean, Middle East, and North Africa. There are so many agendas that we have been working collectively within ICLE, within LGMA, on all these topics that were left untouched or unfinished. So we are able to bring several initiatives, or many of them, back to the agenda item. We have to be able to say that now it's time to build on multi-level NDCs, and we have to connect our race to zero to the NDCs, especially on the mitigation side. And as you have noticed, biodiversity, desertification, there are so many LGMA and global task force engagement in this process that we will be very powerful to convey our messages throughout these processes. What are the opportunities? Obviously, now we could demonstrate that multi-level action really delivers on implementing. I think we have to use this as an opportunity. We have a huge opportunity because Africa Union, the African group, has made urbanization as a positive agenda over the past 5 years or 6 years. Therefore, we should also be not just only working with the Egyptian government, but also with the African group and African nations. We could turn this COP as the first climate and urbanization ministerial. That could be an opportunity that we can embrace. UN Secretary General has noted that the COP26 did not conclude with an emergency mode, and it is fulfilling our expectation. The LGMA roadmap says that we are living in an age of climate emergency. Therefore, having the strong relation with the UN Secretary General will be an opportunity for us. Africa is the home of headquarters for UN Environment and UN Habitat. Therefore, it is a huge opportunity for us because they have been so much working on urbanization and subnational action as well. We have new countries stepping up. That's an opportunity to revive the Friends of Multi-Level Action. We have a new German government, which will have huge influence to the Europe, but also to the global policies. They have already started to make ambitious announcements. So that's a new opportunity for us. We have been working with them on the Friends of Multi-Level Action as well. And we have new agreements. These are the agreements that we can build upon between US, Japan, and US, China. We have a huge opportunity to create a new narrative on loss and damage because of the leadership of Scotland and Wallonia. And we are aware that Climate Vulnerable Forum is a group that we could connect, especially building on our discussions and relations. What are our weaknesses? Obviously, neither Egypt nor Mediterranean can be considered as the best practice for decentralization. There are several countries in the region, but it is not all. That would be giving us some challenges, and we have to be realistic. We have to respect, we have to live with that, but we hope our engagement will also help our members in this region, in countries, to empower them also to advance their domestic engagement and localization of their work and decentralization as well. We need to come up with substantial proposals on what exactly we want on loss and damage and on migration. We know on migration, Global Compact on migration has a work package or track on local governments. UCLG and Mayors for Migration Council is leading this process. We also know Global Parliament of Mayors and others also having a lot of discussions on migration. But if you look at the details, they are not making their connection to the climate, the loss and damage context. So we have to now come up with our own vision on how we want to see this forward. Again, a weakness, we still didn't know who would be the champion, but we have to see this in the next immediate, hopefully, weeks after the beginning of the year. And unfortunately, the Egyptian COP27 presidency did not connect any of the stakeholders directly yet, neither directly from their side nor through UNFCCC. Whereas, for example, in Madrid, when we left Madrid, we were already aware of an incoming presidency, and we had already a dialogue. At that time, the incoming presidency was even with us in the when we were launching our roadmap towards COP26. So we did not find this opportunity yet. There are threats. Obviously, the biggest threat is COVID-19. So how this will be held in a continent which is still not reaching to the level of vaccination. And this is still an issue that is a solidarity between the global north and south. The fact that Africa is not reaching to its vaccination cannot be only a fault of the national governments there, because the distribution of vaccines is still not done appropriately. And that goes to the same discussion. A threat is that we should not let this COP to be the COP of Africa only. It cannot be left on their own shoulders. The global north and emerging economies, how much they will be bringing back their priorities so that the emergency pact can be blocked in the COP27, we have to wait and see. Or how will they change their mindset and come back with new commitments so that the COP27 is a success story in the agenda that was ignored. This has to be done. And in that sense, our role, a constituency that brings North and South, will be playing a huge role. Under these conditions, I'm getting to the end of my presentation so that we can open the space for discussions. I've already seen some inputs to the chat box, which is great, so that we can come back to that. A vision for our roadmap towards Sharm el-Sheikh. First of all, we should go now from the moment, or from the vision of time for multi-level action, to a vision for multi-level action delivers. This is a proposal, of course, we can work on it, but the notion should be that it is time, the second phase of Paris Agreement with multi-level engagement enshrined in itself, should be now concretely demonstrating how we work at the local, national, regional, and global levels. So in that sense, we could think about 4 main priorities. That could be a suggestion that we will all discuss with. First of all, enhanced multi-level NDCs. We have to work with all the countries who have made NDCs or who have raised their emissions through multi-level action. Even they should come back and bring back their NDCs, and they have to work at home. They have to listen to what was announced in Glasgow with their leaders, with their partners, and they have to bring more ambitious NDCs. They have to connect their NDCs to Race to Zero, Race to Resilience, and our pathways. And this is also a prerequisite for us to say that if you want all this Race to Zero to deliver, you have to make sure that you dedicate us the appropriate resources. So ensuring transparency and making sure that we are on the right track is the biggest challenge, will be the biggest challenge, and we have to demonstrate that. We have to introduce a vision of what do we mean by multi-level action. Well, by meaning multi-level action, a core element is the relation between public stakeholders. When we say public stakeholders, executive bodies like local and regional governments and their national and federal governments, but legislative bodies, municipal councils, regional parliaments, national parliaments, senates, we have to work with them much more effectively. And we are very happy. We have a very good relation with GLOBE legislators, and we will be working on that. And it is not just legislative and executive bodies. The more the litigation of the cases of inaction is coming to the courts, the national courts, to the regional courts, we have to work more with the judicial bodies as well. We have to bring them on the same page that ambitious climate action is not a luxury. It should be the new normal, and they should help us by demonstrating empowerment functioning of the judicial bodies. And we have to energize our friends of multi-level action. You can remember until COP26, LGMA was relatively silent mode. By COP26, we have stepped up and we have to now bring friends of multi-level action on board more actively. We have already seen so many discussions with new countries and the existing countries, so we have to bring them on board. Second, unfinished business. Climate emergency should be addressed. There are three main elements for that. First of all, the topics, the transformative agendas, food, nature, adaptation, culture, finance. These are the topics that we have to bring to the table. We have to bring migration and loss and damage as a standalone in its own entirety, because the way to address loss and damage and migration is much different than a traditional adaptation discussion. So we have to bring this on board as well. And maybe we could consider to create a new way of dialogue between the LGMA, the subnationals, and to the Climate Vulnerable Forum. Considering what we have achieved in our relations with them, considering what Scotland has done with them, we have a huge opportunity that climate justice, climate equity, and solidarity between North and South can be demonstrated by the power of subnationals and with the collaboration with Climate Vulnerable Forum. This can be an important agenda on the way forward. We should this time really do our best that we make sure we have the first UNFCCC COP Climate and Urbanization Ministerial. This will be important because this will set a new dynamic. We have seen the energy ministers, the agriculture ministers, finance ministers, the more they are present in the COP space, the more their agenda can be empowered. So the Climate and Urbanization Ministerial is something that we should not postpone anymore. We were dreaming about it in Glasgow, but now we have to make sure in the Africa COP, in the continent which is the most rapidly urbanizing, in the continent that has already been accepted that urbanization will be their transformative agenda, we have to make sure climate and urbanization is convened in Sharm el-Sheikh. And this will complement that in the first year of the multi-level Paris Agreement, we have climate and urbanization as an agenda as well. And we have to make sure our sisters, brothers, our peers in Africa, but as well as in Mediterranean and MENA region is also strengthened through this mobilization. We have seen how we were so good in working with our partners in UK, from Scotland to Northern Ireland, from Wales to England. All of the UK local and regional governments were with us. They have introduced a lot of inputs to us, but they were also advantaged, or they have already received so much good input from our mobilization. They were also strengthened. We have to think about the same for COP27 and Africa, Mediterranean, and MENA as well. And this is our last slide. On the way to COP26, you remember we had a working group. It was around 20 networks involved in that. We would like to refresh this, and we would like to also build upon our experience, and we're building our new vision. A robust LGMA, more ownership, more expertise is needed. So the proposal would be that we would still, as ICLE World Secretariat, continue to act as an LGMA focal point, as a convener, but we would like to empower and give more responsibilities to our regional partners. Therefore, we would like to particularly invite UCLG Africa and ICLE Africa to be the lead as co-facilitators. Within such a working group, there are several networks that should be by default be involved. FMDV, having so many work on climate finance in Africa, we should be our partner. RALGA, they were the only African network in the COP26 process. We want to rely on them. We want to count on them. Climate Change, a very powerful network. We are working together for so many years, and they have also a very strong network in Africa. The EU Committee of the Regions, they are very strong relation with Africa, but as well as in the Mediterranean, and they have already been putting this their priority for so many years, and especially during COP, after COP, they have demonstrated how seriously they are taking this forward. UCLG MEVA, obviously in the space that had been Middle East and West Asia is their structure, but we believe it is an opportunity for them to come on board because, as we have said, Egypt is in a unique let's say, moment or space. It is Africa, but also in the Middle East, in many geopolitical engagements. So some of the mechanisms we can benefit if we can address also their engagement in the Middle East as well. C40 and others, and in the morning session we already heard CMR will come on board, that they already have announced their contributions to this process. This doesn't exclude any others, especially from the global south, in Latin America or in Asia, but let's remember there will be some relevance to the proximity as well. But we will look forward to welcoming all other partners. Scotland and Glasgow, so many times they have mentioned that they would like to continue to work with us, and we will look forward to their contributions. UNEP, UN Habitat, as we said, but UNDP as well. We have been hosting together this ministerial mayor forums, but this year we also would like to empower our relation with UN Capital Development Fund, especially on Article 6.8 on this non-market approach. We have mechanisms from Europe, which is the neighborhood of the Africa. COMSSA does not address Egypt, but it is an important body, an important process in the sub-Saharan Africa. EU ClimaMed is an important actor again in this region. There are intergovernmental processes like Union for Mediterranean and so many others that we cannot list here. So this shows that is the diversity and the strength we can build upon. Therefore, this is just a proposal, it's a starting point, but I think this is at least a beginning, giving us a food for thought on the way forward. So with this, I'd like to conclude my intervention and give the floor, because I've seen so many contributions coming up as well. So I see the chat box. Let's start with those who have contributed. Heloise, you were asking about subnational finance. Let's come back to that again. Risto from City of Turku, we are very happy to have you on board, Risto, especially with Mayor of Turku, Iklei's Vice President. We were very happy to have her in leadership. And it's good that you're still continuing with us on this way for the COP27. So Heloise, I think maybe Heloise, it would be good, you can come in to speak because you have written a long text a number of times. And Jose from Committee of the Regions also have provided input. So I suggest we start with Heloise and we continue with others, if it's okay for you.
Thank you, Eunice, and hello, everyone. No, a big thank you, first of all, to ICLEI and LGMA. It was excellent what we did at the COP, and really having a multi-level pavilion for the next COP, I think is something we should really consider again. No, just to say that in our priorities that we would, first of all, as Regions 4, we would like to be part of the COP27 working group. And as part of that, we are very interested to look at the adaptation goal as one of the announcements at this COP was this idea of shaping an adaptation goal. And we would like to work closely with you on this. Decentralized funding and finding the mechanisms to see which regions and cities can tap into these decentralized funding, I think should be a priority and is one on our end. And the last one, and I think you mentioned it, is really getting those African regions on board, and we have a few that want to be engaged. So these are kind of three priorities we would like to collaborate with ICLEI and the LGMA constituency for next year.
Excellent, excellent. This is really good to hear, especially our vision is that this working group will not be the only one. We would like to continue like expert groups on migration, on adaptation, on multi-level, and there will be opportunity that one organization could nominate more than one person because everybody is working on a diversity of topics, but some of them should take the lead. And I would definitely look forward to Regions 4 because of your engagement in the Race to Resilience and Regions Adapt and your continued support to the process. So that will be very good. This is the moment, and now we have to step up and map up who would do what, and then we can bring all our intelligence and capacity back to the process. So great to hear your contributions. Any other colleagues? There's one point in Veronica. Great, from CC35. Great to see you, Veronica, once again. Oh, you are leaving, sorry. You want to take a lead in Latin America? Definitely, as that's exactly that. We do not want to exclude anyone, but obviously we would like to have some more, let's say, pioneering role, but others will never leave aside. North America, Latin America, South America will all be part of this process. Definitely, especially CC35 and regions, our R20. when they announced their subnational fund, it was one of the major announcements. So we look forward to your expertise, because we also know you have worked in the Africa region. So it's good that you are here, Veronica. Congratulations once again for your work, and we look forward to your contributions, definitely. Jose, Committee of the Regions, would you like to intervene? Feel free to unmute yourself if you want, but others as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Yes, as you know, we are also working on a roadmap that we, of course, will coordinate with you. And this time, considering that the COP27 will take place in Egypt, we will try to involve um, our own political forum, which is called ARLEM, Euro-Mediterranean Regional Local Assembly, of which Egypt is a member, together with Turkey, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, Albania, Bosnia, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon. So I think we can also politically contribute because our contacts are at political level in order to have a coordinated and in order to synergize also our efforts. So looking forward.
excellent, excellent. This is really good to hear. And of course, I mean, Europe will be also should play a huge role in this Mediterranean or African COP, and building the bridge from subnationals of the global north to the global south institutions with Committee of the Regions is extremely important. I'm very happy that you also have mentioned about the other countries, because, for example, we are also in touch. You may remember there is a new network coming from Balkans, the B40 Balkan Cities Network. So we should make sure, first of all, Africa is not alone. Africa is not only bearing the responsibility, and that we will be standing by them, and we will be showing that global north and global south are sharing that we have to go to an emergency mode, as UN Secretary General has mentioned, and subnationals would be the best partner for any discussions on this agenda. So very happy to hear your commitment, Jose. Congratulations once again to your leadership and your support as well. Any other contributions from our colleagues? You can type, or you can turn on your microphone and share your insights. It could be comments or missing elements, or you can also add your commitments as well if you want. If not, we have 7 minutes left, so we could definitely cut short. At least 5 minutes is not bad when everybody's preparing for a long, hopefully well-deserved break. Maybe I can just announce through this opportunity that we have already mapped monthly webinar dates for our 2022. We will start on 19th of January, but we also would like to inform that we have already started a discussion with UCLG Africa and IFLE Africa. Very likely before 19th of January, they will come up with some more additional ideas or suggestions so that they can take the lead a bit more, especially in relation to Egypt. There are already plans to have a visit to Egypt. We will have some bilaterals. So before 19th of January, you all can already expect some announcements or some updates. We will share some also shared file documents so that you can also start populating with your information as you may have heard, and so that we would have once we have finished with end of year break, I think we will have a very rapid start of the year. Especially we are hoping that there will be some announcement from Egypt, that at least we will know whom we have to talk to. We will look forward to continue our dialogue with the COP26 presidency, especially Nigel, since he's now alone. But I think for sure, we will not let anyone walk alone. We will make sure that we can go further together. And that was the spirit of COP26, and we want to continue at COP27 as well. With this, I'd like to thank you all, not just for this participation to live participation to this webinar, but throughout this 2 years, it was really a great asset to have this commitment and enlarged family of LGMA, and we are proud to achieve these results. We look forward to continuing our success so that we can definitely make sure that 1.5 is achievable, and that our communities can rely on us as local and regional governments, and that we will not give up. We will make sure that our pathway is going to its destination. In that regard, once again, wish you all a safe and happy and healthy break in the next couple of days and weeks. Those who celebrate your celebrations for Christmas, Merry Christmas to all of you. Those who just want to take a break, take your break, detox yourself, and come back with a renewed commitment, an energized commitment. And we'll look forward to meeting you in the year next year on the way forward to Sharm el Sheikh. Take care.